Hello everybody, welcome on into the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. I'm Sam Peterson, I'm your host for last week and this week, and we are on week 2 of the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenges. We're going to be doing a new challenge today. If you're not familiar with these, I can show you how to join. We have 2 weeks of live and then 2 weeks of replays. If you happen to be watching this and it says Creative Encore down at the bottom, that means you are watching a replay and you'll have access to all the challenges. But for those of you who are watching live, let's go to the landing page and I'll show you what today's new challenge is. So like I said, if you're watching and it says Creative Encore, all these will be revealed, but we have 2 left. So today's challenge is retro comic graphics. Make your designs pop by using shapes and type tools to create a retro comic book text effect. So if you go to the top here, you'll see the big blue button. This is on the landing page at behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. And you can click the blue button up here and register for the challenges, get notifications. And tomorrow we'll have a new one revealed. So each day a new one is revealed. But if you're watching the replays, you'll see them all. And if you want to see past weeks, you can scroll down here. You'll see the date. You can scroll on the side, see all the challenges from past weeks, months, years. And if you click chat with the community here, this is how you can join the Discord. Speaking of the Discord, you can head on over there to submit your designs, get feedback, give feedback. We got mentors in the chat. We got Ted. I see Ted in the chat here. He's a mentor in the Discord, as am I, so I'm giving you feedback as well. And you can post your designs here, share what you've been working on for these challenges. If you want to post any of the past challenges or designs that you've done on your own, there's different sections for that. Design feedback. There's the ask a question section here if you're stuck on anything and need some help. So definitely check it out if you haven't already. This is kind of the place we're hanging out, sharing, giving feedback when we're not here on stream. Hey everybody, what's up? Jennifer, Ted, Anki, Way to Cuff, our moderator. Good to see everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Norsh, what's up everybody? Susan, Jack Watson, hello. Murray, welcome on in everybody. Also, if you're watching over on YouTube, come on over here to Behance where I'll be able to read all the questions and comments and everything that you have. That's where we're all hanging out, and that's the people I'm talking to if you're wondering who I'm greeting. So today actually has quite a few steps. I'm going to jump right into it and we're going to get going. It's not a complex technique or anything, but there's a lot of elements that we're editing. So I'm going to try to get through all of this. All right, so first, I'm going to be creating some text here. I'm going to grab the text tool from the left-hand side, hotkey T, and I have this font called Comic Shark, so you can look that up if you're interested, but I'm just going to do this kind of like pow text here. We'll do something simple. You can do kablam, bang, whatever you can think of. I'm going to do Control A, and I think a gray is pretty good. I'm just going to do kind of a darkish gray. I don't want to make this black because we're going to add a stroke, and I want to be able to visualize that. But I'm going to add the text here, and I'm just going to scale this up with the move tool. Move tool up here, and do a little pow text. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and just make it a little askew, a little diagonal, add a little dynamic diagonal feel. Press enter to accept that, and that's pretty good. From here, we're going to create a backing shape. You know, this kind of classic Batman, like pow, whap, all that good stuff, bang. We're going to create that with the Polygon Tool, actually. So what I'm going to do is make sure this is set to shape here, up at the left-hand side, top left. And we're going to have certain settings that we want. So if you scroll up here, not scroll up, but look up, it says the number of sides or points on a star. So currently it's 3, which would just be like a triangle. But what I want to do is maybe try 14 and see how that looks. And now we have this shape. So if we want that kind of star shape, we have to make certain settings. I'm just going to, or tweak certain settings. So I'm just going to do Control Z, and I'm going to go to this little gear cog icon up here. And what I want is those 14 sides that we have. Star ratio, I'm not going to have at 100. I'm going to try 50%. And then the smooth star indents, you can see if we do it from here, we get these spiky stars, which maybe you want. That might be exactly what you want. But I kind of like this effect that you get when you select smooth star indents. From here, you get that kind of classic curve bang pattern. So I think that's really neat. I like that. I'm going to drag it out and just kind of get the shape I want. And I'm going to click and drag that and drag it below the text. So from here, I can kind of line it up. I can scale it up a bit and see what looks good to me. I like the exclamation point popping over the top and the P. So I'm going to try to keep that. So Adam West, yeah, exactly. All right, so that looks pretty good. And what I want to do from here is go ahead and add some layer styles to make these a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and add a stroke to one of these via layer styles. We'll do the text first, and I'm just going to double click that to access the layer styles. So from here, I can click on stroke, and I think that looks pretty good. I can add the size. I think 15 actually looks pretty solid for the text. You can try different sizes. You can try like 5, that kind of thing. I can double click back on it to access it again because I pressed enter. But I think 15 is pretty solid for our text. I want something bold. I'm going for that like bold comic book look. So I think that looks pretty good. Position, you can try outside or inside, but I like the boldness of outside. So let's add a stroke to the polygon as well before we move on to color. I'm going to double click the polygon layer. I can actually just call that my shape layer. I can rename it, whatever works. But for stroke, I do like the boldness. I might try something a little bit less. Actually 15 looks pretty good. I was going to try 10, but I think that's good. The only thing I don't really like is the position. The outside rounds out the spikes. I want that kind of sharp spiky look. So if I try the position to inside, it actually gives me the exact look I'm going for. So that's great. I like that. So from here, we'll go back to our text, and we're going to add a gradient overlay. So we talked about gradients in previous challenges a little bit, but I'll give you a bit of a refresher. If you go into the gradient here, you can just click that, and you can look through basics. You know, there's some grayscale ones, blues, depending on what color you want. You can try out some default ones. If we go to oranges, that's what I'm going for. Some kind of bold, warm text color. And this one's actually not too bad. I could keep that. If I want to desaturate or edit it all, I could. What you can do is you can click the square here, go down to color, and I could change that. So maybe I want it like less saturated, a little bit more subdued. You can click down below the gradient to add new colors. So if I wanted to create like a blue tone in the middle of that gradient, I could. I can also click and drag these around to adjust how gradual or abrupt the transition between two colors is. You can do the same thing. Let me click and drag that out to delete it. Click that. And then you can drag these little markers to do the same thing. But I'm going to click and drag this blue color out of it because I don't want that. I do like this. So I'm going to click OK to accept. So a little rundown on gradients if anyone missed the previous challenge. So from here, I think that looks pretty solid. I'm going to click OK to accept. Double click my polygon layer. Actually, I'm going to go and just name that shape just for my own reference. I like to keep organized. And for shape, I'm going to go ahead and do gradient overlay again. Now I want a different color. I want something a little bit lighter, a little bit less bold. I actually created, I think, a gradient that I like here that works pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Click OK to accept it. And then those are looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and shift and click my text tool along with my shape tool and just reposition these. I just want to get the positioning exactly how I want, get it looking good. And I think that looks pretty solid. So from here, I probably want to add some sort of background color. I like to get all my colors blocked in. We're going to do different details. We're going to do a halftone pattern, all this fun stuff. But I want to get all the context in there first, and I feel like color is a huge context. So I'm going to go to my gradient tool here on the left-hand side, G. You can also hold on Shift if you want to press a hotkey and switch between the ones when you click and hold. So Shift G, I could go to my paint bucket, Shift G to get back to my gradient tool. From here, I want to go up to the top left, click the gradient, and see if I can maybe get a gradient that I like for the background that's contrasting. I actually have this blue saved that I kind of like, this blue orange, and that works pretty well for me. Again, if you want to go edit it, you can click in the top left there and customize it here, or select from the saved ones. So I actually want a radial gradient. You'll notice to the right of the little gradient bar in the top left, there's some different options for how that gradient is going to be laid out. And I want radial, which is the second one from the left. So I can try clicking from the middle and just dragging out and see how that looks. The different distances you click will kind of determine the different looks of it. That looks pretty cool. I like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna save this, by the way. That's always a good habit to be into, the old controller command S. Oh, we got the Batman theme going on in chat from Rob. What's up, Rob? Will you be drawing the arm and fist smashing a bad guy's face as well? If we had the time, I would love to. Nothing would make me happier, but we'll just have to picture it for now. The classic bam, pow. I'm looking forward to the variety of like onomatopoeias that we're gonna see in the Discord for this challenge. So I hope we get creative with it. So we got that blue now. What is the next step here? We are gonna create some halftone patterns. So I am going to go ahead and select my gradient tool like we did. So that's selected, but let's create a new layer to put this halftone pattern on. Controller Command Shift N is the hotkey for new layer. And I'm gonna do halftone, and I'll call this shape. Again, I like to keep organized. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab my gradient tool, change the gradient, and go to basics. We'll see a black and white version here, and that's what I want. Now, if you do a gradient, we'll change that to the, what is it called? Linear? Linear gradient, away from radial. We have this, and what you can do from here is you can go to filter, and you can do pixelate color halftone. So you probably will have different default settings. The max radius is kind of affecting the size of the dots. And if you have different channel inputs, you can see all mine are 45. You're gonna have a color variation. So if I put like 10 here and I click OK, we get a color halftone. Control Z. So what I'm gonna do is go back to pixelate color halftone. I do not want the color, so I'm gonna keep them all the same number. I like 45 because it gets you this sort of diagonal pattern on how they're stacked. If you try it again and you do something like pixelate color halftone and you try 0 for all of these, for example, see how they're all stacked vertically? I kind of like the other version. So Control Z, filter, pixelate, color halftone. And I liked 45. Play around with it, you know, have fun. Get it how you want. Max radius, try different things for that. But I actually might try smaller dots for the background. So I'm gonna do 10, see how that looks. That's not bad. So we're gonna be painting over this with lock transparencies. So you can actually get rid of this white background if you double click it, go into layer styles and play with the blend if. And basically anything to the right of that marker is getting removed, which is white tones. And that works pretty well. You can also split these with Alt or Command and get a little bit more of a gradual transition. But for our purposes, we're gonna do this. Quick and easy. I'm gonna grab the magic wand tool over here on the left-hand side, click the white and just press delete. And from here, I actually want to clip this to our shape. So I'm gonna click and drag this right above the shape layer, and then I'm going to group the shape layer. We would need to rasterize this otherwise, but I'm just gonna group the shape layer. And that way I can clip this halftone, right click it, do create clipping mask, and I can clip it directly to that shape. And that looks pretty good. I like that. So for what I want to do from here is I want to take this, this halftone shape layer, and I'm going to name that group that we just created shape. So I can keep this all organized. So I know that's my shape group that contains this shape. And I'm going to select my halftone that we did, and I'm going to lock the transparencies here up at the top. See that little checkerboard pattern? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select with the color picker, which is Alt or Option. I have my brush tool selected, by the way. It doesn't really matter what brush you have selected for this. I have some random textured one. Doesn't matter. but I'm selecting the color of the yellow, and I'm going to paint over this. And I'll show you why I'm doing that in a second. We're going to set this to multiply. And I find that selecting the lighter color gives me an effect that I like. So I'm going to go ahead and do the blending mode and change that to multiply. So you can try painting different colors on top of those dots, get different effects. But I find if you choose the light color from the gradient, it's a really nice subtle effect. From here, what I could do is I could resize. I can warp this, you know, kind of like fit it how I want. If I want the dots a bit bigger, press enter. That looks fine. Can paint over it, make sure I don't miss anything. And that looks pretty good to me. I like that. What's up, D? Welcome on in. Keep the halftone pattern large, especially if printing on press, or the more effect will likely be undesirable. Okay. Yeah, you can try the brushes too. That's a great idea. All right, so let's do that for the text as well. I gotta be wary of time here, so I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna go back to my gradient tool, hotkey G. And what you can also do is you can also change the black in the gradient to be a bit more of a gray. And you'll see how dense the spacing is on our other one. If you don't like that, you can always change it to a gray. The black is going to be more dense. So let's create a new layer, Controller Command Shift N. This will be halftone text. We'll add this. And then I'm going to do the same thing. Filter, pixelate, color halftone, keeping the same settings I had before, but making the dots a bit bigger, 15 instead of 10. And do you see there's a bit more spacing going on there? So you can kind of affect it with the gray and the colors you choose. So I'm going to go in here with my magic wand tool, select the white, press delete. I'm going to go ahead and group the text again so we can clip it properly. Got to group it, and I'll just name this text. And now I'm going to clip by right-clicking the halftone layer and create clipping mask. We'll clip it to the mask or the group below it, or the layer below it, but in our case, group. From here, I'm going to go ahead and select my halftone texture and put it to multiply like we did for the other one, just repeating the same steps. Lock transparencies, select the color with the Alt or Command button to color pick the yellow, the light part of our gradient, and then just paint over it. I think that looks pretty neat. So from here, I think we're pretty much got what we want. I would like to do a halftone for the back shape as well. I think it just missed a spot on my other halftone. It's bugging me. All right, clean that up. So I want to do a halftone pattern for the background as well. The same thing, but the only difference is when I'm creating the gradient, I would do a radial gradient. Now, in the interest of time, I'm going to skip that step. I'll do it and I'll share it on the Discord. You can do it if you want on your own design, but it's the same process, just repeated. So let's move on to the next step in the interest of time. So I'm going to go ahead and add action lines. You can't have a POW without some action lines, in my opinion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our friend, the Polygon Tool, here over on the left-hand side. A hotkey appears to be U, not one I actually have memorized. But I'm going to go back into that gear icon, and we don't want smooth star indents, and I want the star ratio at 100. I don't want the star effect. So I'm going to press enter. We don't want 14 sides either. I just want 3 sides. I'm essentially just creating a triangle here. So from here, I want to make this triangle, and what I want to do is make sure you have, if you move it around, make sure you select the Polygon tool so you can edit those. But I'm just going to create it black. I'm going to have no stroke. I don't want any stroke on this. I found that if you have a stroke, it makes resizing it kind of funky and getting the size just where you want it. So I think this looks pretty good. Press enter. And I'm going to use the move tool to kind of scale this up and resize it. And from here, I'm just going to basically Control J, Controller Command J to duplicate. And I'm just going to reposition it. I want it all to point into the center, so I'm going to tweak the angle slightly, and I'm going to change up the size. You know, I could do something like this. Press enter, Control J. And I'm not going to add too many of these, again, in the interest of time. It's not that this technique is complex or anything, it's just that there's a lot of steps if you want to apply these to each different element. So I'm going to do a handful here. Maybe I'll leave that as a singular one. Put one down here. Maybe shrink it. But we're keeping these all as separate layers. Controller Command J again. Separate it. And I'm just going to put a couple more. And we'll move on. But, you know, spend as long as you want on this. Put as many lines as you want. You can get crazy. You could even like group all these together, duplicate the group, and then rotate it again. It's all up to you. You are the master of your own destiny. All right, let's do like one more. One or two more. Maybe a big one up here. And because I have no self-control, one more. Yay, okay. So that looks kind of neat. And again, we can always adjust these. So I need to keep this organized. There's a million layers here, and I do want to keep them separate for now. So I'm going to select the top one, go all the way to my bottom polygon one, press Shift and click, and then do Controller Command G to group it. And I'll just call this lines. I'd like to move the lines so that they're underneath the text, but over the top of the shape. So I could easily just grab that line group that I just created, put it right on top of the shape. I did something wrong there. Put it right on top of the halftone as to not separate them. So now it's behind the text. I'm gonna save that with Controller Command S. And we got a pretty good look. I want to make sure I fit in this very important point that's towards the end. I think we're just about there. So let's do one more step. We didn't put the halftone in the background, but I do want to show you a cool little thing that you can do if you're not aware of it. Again, we're going back to that shape tool, but we're going to do custom shape tool. I'm going to click and hold on it to get the list, the drop-down list. Click custom shape. And if you go up to shape here in the top, you'll see this icon. Now the one I'm going to use, these are all sorts of symbols and graphics if you weren't aware of these. If you didn't know Photoshop has these options. But if you go near the bottom, for me, it's next to TM, this target symbol, this like crosshair symbol, and the eye. And you'll see this kind of circular, crazy pattern. Well, if we select that, it's actually called registration target 2. So that's what we're going to be using. And I'm going to click from the center and just drag out. It may help to zoom out so you can get this big enough, but that seems like it should work. Ooh, that's a cool color. And from here, you can select the fill properties window. I can do that too, but I'm going to select fill. I'm going to click this little icon in the top right, and I'm just going to select, I think like a blue color, not too saturated. I don't want anything too bold. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the blending mode and do multiply. Now I could fiddle with the colors as long as I want. We don't really have the time, but I'm going to actually just go ahead and lower the opacity. I want it fairly subtle. I also want that halftone pattern, so I don't want it to be overpowering, but just pretend the halftone pattern's there. And that looks pretty good. Select off of the shape. And we got a pretty cool action lines coming out that pair nicely with the black lines that we put. So I think this looks all pretty cool. This is the really important part that I wanted to say. Now you don't have to do this at all. If you like the saturation, if you like the look of this, that's totally cool. You can also pick the colors to have an aged look if you want, but I always personally love doing adjustment layers, keeping my colors kind of this general saturation, and then having the option to create adjustment layers. So if you go to layer, new adjustment layer, we can do levels. And for levels, I'm actually just going to go down to this bottom bar and ease off the darks. This is kind of how you get rid of the darks or you taper off the brights. I'm going to do it for the darks to give it kind of that faded look. A lot of times in old photographs or designs, it's the dark tones that get a bit faded. So I'm going to do that with the levels. Then I'm going to go ahead into another adjustment layer, hue and saturation. And then we are going to do, I don't know, desaturate it, maybe like 25. And do I have time? I don't know if I have time. Last thing I was going to do is add a grain. And so what I would do by that is make a new layer. I'm going to rush this one a bit, so forgive me for not explaining every step. But fill it in with a mid-tone gray with the fill bucket. And then make that a smart object. Right click it, do smart object, and do filter, noise, add noise. 17% looks pretty good to me. I'm gonna make that layer an overlay layer. And the last thing I would do is go ahead and go to filter. And this is a smart object, so it's saving these layers. We can always go back and tweak them. Gaussian blur, 1 pixel blur to soften it up. You can see the difference between that and that. And that's it. That's all we got time for. I do have to go, but you can add like a paper texture. I think in the starting file, I put that. You can overlay that if you want to make it look like it's a creased page of a comic book. Lots of fun things you can do with this. Hopefully this wasn't too many steps. Hopefully it wasn't overwhelming. But you can kind of take this, use what you like. You don't have to do every single step we did. But there's some tools for you to play with, experiment with, have fun with, that can all kind of contribute to this retro look. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this challenge. I will be back for another one. Make sure to join the challenges, join the Discord. I'll be there today giving feedback. Appreciate y'all hanging out with me today. Hope you had fun with this one, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.